In order to protect my wife, Mary, I was trapped under an overturned car, and my leg was so severely injured that amputation was necessary. Mary comforted me through her tears, saying, "Don't be afraid, husband. I will take good care of you for the rest of my life. I'll be your legs." However, she later changed her attitude and harshly scolded me for being a useless waste. She even fixed my wheelchair in the living room, forcing me to listen to the sounds of infidelity coming from the bedroom in silence. I ignited the curtains. The fire consumed everything, and yet, amidst the pain, I opened my eyes once more. I sat in the hall, straining to push the wheelchair, but it was firmly stuck in place. Was something jamming the wheelchair? The noise in the room grew louder, and I wanted to check, my heart racing as if I were frying in hot oil. My legs were numb. I could only grip the armrest with one hand and lean down, my gaze fixed on the immobilizing device that had been pulled tight. "Honey, you sit here for a moment. I'll go get a water cup from the room." The woman's words were still echoing in my ears, but they were quickly interrupted by a humming sound beside me. It was already painfully obvious she was almost brazenly involved with her lover, yet I still didn't want to believe it. I strained to move the wheelchair a few inches, just a few centimeters. This body had been weakened to the point of exhaustion by illness, and I slumped in the wheelchair, gasping for breath. I couldn't drown out the teasing that seeped into my ears. "Be quiet. I pulled the fixer before I left. If we keep our voices down like before, he won't hear us. He's just a useless waste." "What are you afraid of?" But I heard them. The soundproofing in this house was clearly not as good as they imagined. The two of them laughed together, sounding incredibly happy. I couldn't say a word. Huge anger had seized my heart, and I could barely breathe. I bent down to pull off the fastener. I couldn't move it. It was secured too tightly. In fact, I used so much strength that I fell off the wheelchair and landed hard. It hurt a lot. It felt like I hit my head on the sharp edge of the table, and warm blood started to flow down from my head, making me look quite disheveled. With a clear mind, I dragged my body across the floor, struggling. I took out a lighter from my pocket, along with the perfume I had originally intended to give to my wife. I smashed it and expressionlessly ignited the liquid flowing on the ground until the curtains caught fire. The fabric curtains burned quickly. Footsteps approached, and it seemed that two people in the room had come out. I crawled over and used my body to block the firelight. I couldn't be discovered. "Cough, cough, cough!" What a strange smell. It's really awful. Oh, what's this? Instead of being you've decided to become a circus performer. You're crawling pretty fast. Ah, the man kicked me, and I almost fell into the fire, blood filling my eyes, making it hard to see their faces. But it didn't matter. I didn't need to see them clearly. Smoke filled the air. "George, what have you done?" he said. "It's on fire. He wants to kill us." "Are you out of your mind?" I fumbled around and pulled out a bouquet of flowers from behind the wheelchair, lit it in front of them, and threw it at the door. The whole house was instantly engulfed in flames. "I'm crazy, didn't you already know?" they screamed frantically. The door was blocked, and they could only throw water to save themselves. I sat quietly. Today was supposed to be the 5th anniversary of my marriage with Mary. I had bought fresh flowers, candles, and perfume. Now it seemed they could only serve as offerings. Not entirely useless, I thought to myself with self-mockery. The burning skin hurt a lot, and I watched the two of them scream and curse, filled with a sense of satisfaction. This pair of scumbags finally got a taste of retribution. Then I opened my eyes again. The tip of my nose was filled with a lingering scent of perfume. My body was in contact with the leather seat, and the dull sound of the car's audio system filled my ears. I was unconsciously humming along with the music. Such a familiar scene. "Honey, honey, what's wrong with you? Did you hear what I said?" My arm was being shaken by someone, and I looked at the changing scenery in front of me, filled with panic. I remembered very clearly that it was on this road where the accident happened. I sat up straight. Could it be that I was reborn? I ignored the woman's objections beside me and started to turn the steering wheel, intending to make a U-turn. "Honey, what's wrong? We're going to be late this way." "It's shorter." I casually tapped a few times on my phone. "We're taking the main road, it's wider, and the conditions here are poor." I split my attention and glanced at the elegantly made-up woman next to me. She bit her lip, wanting to say something, but then closed her mouth. "But no buts. When have you ever cared about being late?" I lightly reflected her words. "Heaven has given me a chance to be reborn. How can I easily take risks? The reason I was so severely injured in my past life was that when the brakes failed, I chose to protect Mary tightly. She was just a bit startled, with some scrapes on her hands, trembling in a daze filled with fear. She didn't mind that I was covered in blood and cried all the way while holding me. She almost cried herself into the ICU before me. When she finally woke up, she boasted, 'It's all my fault, husband, don't be afraid. Even if you have to have a limb amputated, I will take good care of you for the rest of my life. I will be your legs.' The doctors and nurses all said I had a good wife and that I didn't marry the wrong person in this life. I also thought I was lucky, but upon reflection, there were many details I overlooked. For example, Mary is very lazy. Since marrying me, she has never seriously worked a single day, just holding a nominal position at the company, not doing any real work. Forget about being late. It's a struggle for her to even come to the office. Ice. But that day, she was eager to get to work and insisted that I take a shortcut. The shortcut was narrow and had no surveillance. When a car came towards us in the wrong direction, no matter how I turned the steering wheel, I couldn't avoid it, and the brakes just happened to fail, causing the car to flip over. I protected Mary with all my might, but my leg was pinned underneath by the weight, and I bled so much that I almost fainted. For example, clearly after I was injured, she looked extremely worried, almost collapsing herself. After I was discharged from the hospital, I came across her posts on social media. There were no words, just pictures of the hospital and the bed, along with her own selfie, her face red from crying and her lips pale. She managed to put together a 9-grid collage. If someone didn't know better, they might think that the one who was seriously injured and needed rescuing was her. Not once did she mention me from beginning to end. There are too many doubts. I came to my senses and resolutely turned around. It wasn't the time for the brakes to fail. Someone must have tampered with my car. How much did I love this hypocritical woman in my past life to be so easily blinded by such obvious indifference? The woman pouted in dissatisfaction, her handbag striking heavily against my hand, resting on the handbrake. The decorations on the handbag left small cuts on the back of my hand, a sharp pain. "George, before we got married, you promised me that if I said to go east, you wouldn't dare go west. It's only been a few years, and now you don't even listen to what I say." Finally, I found that small road and let out a sigh of relief. I turned off the car and parked by the roadside. "Honey, after all these years together, don't you know me? That small road doesn't have any surveillance. If something happens to you, how am I supposed to live the rest of my life?" I held her hand, not missing the flicker of disdain in her eyes. "Don't say those sweet words to placate me." I pulled out a card and placed it in her palm. "Didn't you see a bag you liked a few days ago? Use this card to buy it, and from now on, use my supplementary card." She showed a reluctant expression, but her hand immediately took the card, and I watched her beaming with joy, unable to contain her excitement, and said nothing more. "Honey, since you're not working, can you take me to the mall? Didn't you say you wanted to meet my parents last time? I want to buy them some gifts." It sounded nice, but wasn't she really going to buy a bag? However, I took her to the mall and then turned around to take the car for repairs. Sure enough, the brakes had been tampered with. The phone kept receiving text message alerts. The secondary card is different from the one I gave her before. Every expense has a detailed record sent to me. Purchase of a men's tie worth $4,000. Purchase of a men's bow tie worth $3,000. The alerts didn't stop. Men's ties, bow ties, shirts, and even underwear. Has she found a mistress, or is she keeping a toy boy? I clutched my fists, looking at more than a dozen expense records and not a single item for women after shopping. Mary smiled happily, claiming she had spent a fortune on my parents. Honey, I bought an $88,888 health supplement package. My parents will definitely love it. You can't say this time that I'm not caring about them. I looked down at the bill that had come through on my phone, and the last item was a health supplement. Health supplements for middle-aged and elderly people, special discount $188. I was both angry and amused. She buys jewelry worth thousands for herself, but only a $188 discounted gift box for my parents. I had never been so clearly aware that the woman sharing my bed didn't love me at all. She even treated me like a fool. Even if I was really angry inside, I still had to keep smiling. I swiped my finger and sent over a link for a listening software. Honey, this secondary card needs to be linked. Please click on the link I sent you to buy the secondary card. The woman believed me. After all, she had just tried it. And this card was much better than the fixed amount card I had given her before. She happily linked it. Honey, you're so good to me. I love you the most. One must spend a little money to achieve great things. I never skimp on such matters. After spending money, she was obviously in a good mood and went home to take a nice shower, saying she wanted to reward me. However, she also took her phone with her. I was a bit surprised. After being married for so many years, she rarely let me touch her phone, always finding various excuses to avoid it. I thought she was a traditional girl, so I didn't say much, but I felt a bit dissatisfied inside. She was taking a shower, and I was sitting in the bedroom looking at my phone's real-time monitoring. I saw her naked, making a video call to a man. My phone almost slipped from my hand. The woman in the video was unprecedentedly bold and uninhibited, completely different from the shy and conservative demeanor I was used to seeing. The man on the other end was very cautious and didn't turn on his camera at all. Only Mary was posing and preening in front of the lens. It's hard to imagine that after loving her for so long, the seemingly aloof and pure wife I thought I had is actually like this, fawning over a man without any bottom line. A wave of nausea surged up and I couldn't help but gag. It's so disgusting. I turned off the screen of my phone, put on my headphones, and only listened to the sound. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear anything clearly. It seemed like the phone was very close to the faucet. I could only catch a few fragmented words. This woman, if you say she's stupid, she knows how to turn on a faucet to cover the noise, but if you say she's smart, she used a card I gave her to buy a bunch of things for men. It's truly contradictory. I finally waited for her to come out of the bathroom. Her face was flushed, her eyes full of springtime emotions. Just as I was about to pounce on her, she pushed me away again. Honey, I'm on my period. I stared at her. A long time passed, and I couldn't help but sarcastically say, "What perfect timing!" She didn't dare to meet my gaze and looked away. It's not something you can control. Seeing that I was silent, she smiled and wrapped her arms around mine. Honey, I promise to make it up to you next time. You know I love you the most. Love me the most? Does she love my money or my foolishness? The next day at work, perhaps feeling ashamed, she rarely got up early, dressed up carefully, and went to the company with me, even spraying perfume. I noticed that she secretly put those men's items she bought into her bag. I guess she was going to meet her lover. Her position in the company was assistant to the general manager. The general manager was me. She was supposed to prepare documents for me or at least pour me a cup of tea. But often, as soon as she entered the company, she would disappear, only showing up during the start and end of the workday. Rather than being an assistant, I felt more like her driver. I was sitting in the office, having opened the company's surveillance permissions. Mary's actions in the morning made me feel that her lover must be hiding in the company. There are only a few places where I can park my car, and the company is obviously a good hunting ground. But after searching all day, I still hadn't seen the host of the few items she bought. I felt a bit frustrated, flipped through my phone, and made a call. I thought maybe I should seek some external help. When I got off work, Mary actually surprised me. Perhaps it would be more appropriate to call it a shock. She was secretly hiding in the car, holding a bouquet of flowers. "Honey, surprise!" Mary smiled brightly and handed me a bag. "Honey, today is your birthday. Did you forget? This is the gift I prepared for you. Open it and take a look." This bag was annoyingly familiar. When I opened it, there were a shirt, a tie, and a bow tie, all things she had bought that day. The wool comes from the sheep. I felt no surprise at all, and even started to feel weary. I didn't believe her mind could come up with such a confusing act. Moreover, the men's underwear she bought was not even in there. I smiled and responded, asking her what she wanted. "Honey, we haven't visited Mom and Dad in such a long time. Let's go see them." "Visit Mom and Dad with your 188 health gift box." I had a gut feeling something was off, but soon I found out the reason. I discovered who the lover was, which was quite a surprise and, to be honest, rather dramatic. When I was going home, Patton's son, Tom, who my parents had hired as a caregiver, was also there. Patton had been with my parents for over a decade, and Tom had lived in our house for just as long. He was as close to me as a brother, and my parents often joked about adopting him. Each time, Patton would sincerely refuse in a flustered manner. On that day, Tom insisted on playing with my little nephew, but he wasn't easy to get along with in public. He ended up pulling down Tom's pants. "Hi, Uncle. Your underwear is so special. It even smells like—" I stared at the logo, stunned. If I remember correctly, the underwear Mary bought was also from this brand. This perfume was even more familiar. It was the one Mary sprayed on herself before going out today. Tom Hurley pulled up his pants while my dad urged from the side, "Quick, apologize to your Uncle Tom." The little kid stubbornly held his neck, refusing to apologize. "What, Uncle Tom? He's not my uncle." I stood to the side, clearly seeing a flicker of resentment in Tom's eyes. I smiled, catching a glimpse of the look in Mary's eyes, united in our animosity. I took out my phone. I thought I really needed to have a good talk with the private detective. Mary started chatting with her parents in the main hall. Her mother maintained a stern expression. She had never been satisfied with this daughter-in-law. 3 years since the marriage and still no children to save face for Mary. I lied and said my sperm was less active. My mother believed it and has felt a bit guilty towards her. In my past life, after I had a car accident, the performance Mary put on truly moved her. She opened her heart to Mary. Unfortunately, Mary seems intent on digging into my family's heart. She smiled as she handed over the 188 health supplement, putting on a perfect good wife act. I looked at the photos sent by the private detective on the other end of the phone. The first one showed Mary taking advantage of her position to steal important project documents from the company. How important was the project? Venus Company had invested most of its working capital in it this year. The project from my previous life had failed to appease the board's anger. I took the blame and resigned, and that was when Tom joined the company. Before I died, it seemed he had become a junior leader. His work ability is really quite average. If it weren't for the timing of my resignation and the disbandment of my team, he would never have had the opportunity to enter the company. He even came to me a few times, asking me to help him with some projects, saying he wanted to be my eyes and ears in the company. I refused. I may no longer hold a position, but my shares are still there. Who holds power really doesn't matter to me. As a result, he fell out with me. Yet he still hasn't received a promotion. I've also heard that he complains to others, saying that I am jealous of his talent. If he is the home wrecker, then Mary's taste is really quite questionable. I'm sorry, boss, but your wife's affair partner is Tom. I had nothing to say. I silently opened the second photo. It was a diagnosis report confirming a 1-month pregnancy. The name on it was Mary. I tightened my grip on the phone. Fine, fine, fine. No wonder they didn't let me touch it. Turns out they were afraid I would get rid of this illegitimate child. She was truly sincere. A video was transmitted over. It was a video of Tom and Mary arguing. This is your flesh and blood. Why are you making me get rid of him? Mary, wake up a little. You said yourself that George hasn't touched you. You recently, as long as it shows. Who doesn't know you've been unfaithful to him? I don't care. I want to have this baby. Oh, so that's how it is. I finally figured out why. It turns out the car accident in my past life was for this reason. That car going the wrong way might have nothing to do with Tom, or it might. A few days ago, I parked the car at the old house, which just gave him the opportunity to act. Brake failure is hard to predict. This time, it just so happened that Mary and I were in the same car. If I had protected Mary, I could have been seriously injured or even killed. There would be no way to stop them from being together if I didn't actually have such deep feelings for her. It would be just right for this child to be aborted. When the blood flows, they could buy off the news. And who would know whose blood it was? Think about it. When I die, this child will be 3 months old. It will be time to show. They probably thought I would die, not expecting that I would take him down with me. It's hard to evaluate. I turn off the screen. There's no point in getting entangled with this pair of infatuated lovers. Every day that Mary occupies the role of my wife makes me feel more disgusted. This time, there was no car accident. I want to see what happens if I divorce Mary and drive Tom away. How will this ill-fated couple cope? I thought this and acted on it. If it's not necessary, I don't want my parents to know. After all, it's not nice to be cucked. More importantly, the caregiver has a really good relationship with my parents. He has taken care of me a lot since I was young. For the sake of the elderly, it'll leave them some dignity. When I threw out the divorce agreement, Mary looked at me in disbelief. George, when you begged me to marry you back then, you promised that you would only love me in this lifetime. Now you want a divorce? Only love her in this lifetime? Yes, I had promised that at that time. Mary wasn't the prettiest girl in class, and her attitude towards me wasn't great either. She came from an ordinary family and said she couldn't stand my young master demeanor. I actually found her special and chased after her every day, buying all sorts of gifts to win her over. She never agreed. One day, however, she got drunk and tearfully begged me, "George, will you marry me?" I agreed. Only a fool would refuse. I suspected she might have some unforgettable ex. But after finally getting her to open up, how could I bear to let it go? In recent years, she has rarely been willing to let me touch her. I have endured it. I thought I could always warm her heart, but look at what she said. If it weren't for you forcing me to marry back then, I would never have married you. I'm married down. After just a few years, you insult me like this? She came at me as if to slap me. I grabbed her hand and her eyes widened even more, which was a bit frightening. She has always taken her anger out on me, thinking I'm made of clay with no temper at all. How could I not have one? It's just that for the sake, I have endured. You said you wanted to marry me, so I married you, Mary. I believe I brought you home without any regrets. You said you couldn't handle housework, so I took care of all of it. You wanted a relaxed job, so I arranged a leisurely position for you. You didn't want to have children, and I could wait. You wanted to buy something, and I have never restricted you. All these years, have you ever shown me a good face? She only smiled when it came to money. Going to bed with me was even more of a reward. If I impulsively kissed her, she would scold me for 3 days. Deep down, she looked down on me but couldn't give up my money. I gave her many opportunities. I took her to choose a diamond ring, to buy a wedding dress, to customize hardware. She wanted the most expensive, the most beautiful, the biggest. At that time, she didn't say she didn't want to marry. When I moved her into the luxury villa I bought in the city center, she still didn't say she didn't want to marry. It wasn't until the wedding was over and everything settled that she started to cry, saying that marrying me was all my design, my lies, my coercion. My brother showed me that screenshot from his Moments, a 9-grid layout of various luxury goods, high-end food, and clothing. The caption read, "I really can't stand this suffocating life for even a day." I almost forgot the first person to like it was Tom. If my money has suffocated you and caused you pain, I apologize for insulting you for so long. I'm truly sorry. I bowed to her, using words to provoke her. The woman hit me with her handbag, several diamonds falling off. "George, you are truly unreasonable." She looked like she wanted to pick them up, but when she met my mocking gaze, it provoked her to sign the divorce agreement right away and throw it harshly in my face. "George, even if you beg me to come back in the future, I will absolutely never return. After all these years, I am truly disgusted by you." She stormed off in her high heels. The next day, she brought people to try to drag away the luggage. I stopped the moving company. All those luxury items were put back in place, and I wouldn't let her take anything. "George, didn't you say I disgust you? I want to give you these disgusting things that suffocate you. What if something happens to you?" She got anxious. I simply shut the door and ignored her. She stomped in front of my door, and as a result, her high heels got stuck in the ground and couldn't be pulled out. In the end, she hopped away barefoot. It was quite ridiculous, like a clown. Once one problem is solved, another arises. I made a phone call and fired Tom. Patton is getting old and hasn't been able to work as a caregiver for a long time. Tom took over her job long ago. He has high expectations but low skills, unwilling to do anything. He acts like a lord in my house. I fired him and my parents complained a bit but didn't stop me. I knew they didn't want to lose face, so I told them not to get involved. Tom's hand trembled slightly as he held the termination. "On agreement, George. What do you mean?" "It means nothing. Just cleaning up some trash." I crossed my arms, watching his face below, pale and greenish. He was a man with a strong sense of pride. I firmly believed that Tom would never do something as humiliating as rolling on the ground. He left in anger, leaving behind a sentence. "Don't bully the young when they're poor." Young at 2? Come on, are you still young? Is a man forever young until death? I just found him ridiculous. I always feel that they want to just settle down to be on the safe side. I hired a private detective to follow the two of them. He is very efficient, sending me 2-gigabyte video files every day. This pair of unfortunate lovebirds are together, and their pockets are cleaner than their faces. Tom also doesn't dare to take Mary home. Patton is an elder of the Venus family. How could my wife not recognize him or not know? Mary also doesn't dare to go home. She knows very well that the JIS family has so many members and favors sons over daughters. Meeting her is purely because she married me. I am her source of confidence. 2 people who dared not return to either home emptied their pockets, sold off their belongings, and barely managed to rent a basement like dark little mice. They shrink away. My daily routine became watching the videos sent by the private detective. They were always fresh and new. It was my secret to maintaining a good mood every day. But this happy life couldn't last long, and videos began to circulate online. It was Mary's lament, saying that I abandoned my wife and children. She cried and begged me to marry her, but now that there's someone else, I want to divorce and demand she leave with nothing. Then there's Tom's accusation, claiming that I disregarded our years of friendship, drove him out of the Venus family out of jealousy for his excellence, and even ordered his banishment. I was left dumbfounded. This must be the benefit of having thick skin. I truly underestimated their shamelessness. They twist the truth, and right and wrong depend entirely on their mouth fabrications. The company's stock was slightly affected, and I haven't taken any action yet. I was called back home by my mom with a phone call. She was sitting on the sofa, full of anger. Mary was sitting next to my mom as if she had found some support, holding her head high. I was both angry and amused, my brows furrowed. "Mom, George insists on divorcing me, but I'm already—" She started to cry, tears streaming down her face. This was clearly her specialty. "George, why did you divorce Mary? If you hadn't knelt down and promised me that you would marry no one but her, would I have let Mary into our home? Mary is so wonderful, and now she's pregnant with our Venus family's grandchild. But buying such expensive health products to bring back to us? And this is how you treat her now?" The cup was smashed hard on my feet, shards flying everywhere. "Mom, don't scold him. The divorce doesn't matter, but the child is innocent," a male voice interjected. "Annie, uncle, I grew up in the Venus family. You know me. I've always regarded George as my brother, you as my parents, and the Venus family as my home. But he fired me, and now I don't even dare to go back home." I looked over. Tom was also there, adding fuel to the fire. I couldn't help but laugh. It was really interesting. One after another, the scumbag and the cheap woman treated our family like fools. Did they think I had no brains at all? Were they sure I wouldn't expose her for the sake of the man's pride? Or did they think I had no idea about her affair? Would I really forget the last time Mary and I shared a room? I laughed even harder. The people in the hall stared at me, probably thinking I was crazy. I wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes and rummaged through my bag. Perhaps I should thank my bad taste for printing out the photos of her dating Tom and their affair. I laid the photos out one by one. Look here. This one is from their hotel date. This one is from the rooftop at home, and this one is from the bedroom at home. With each statement, my parents' expressions grew darker. I delivered the final blow calmly, and the last one is of the sofa you're sitting on. They suddenly jumped up from the sofa, their faces filled with disgust. "Mom and Dad, do you think this child is still innocent?" I took out the 188 set from home. "Or do you think this 188 set is very sincere? Look online. These two innocent kids are crying, and now the whole world thinks I, George, am a downright villain, a bad person." Mary's smile froze on her face. Tom could no longer pretend to be the gentleman he was trying to be for this occasion. He even brought Patton along. Patton immediately handed him a cane and demanded that he kneel and apologize to me. Tom stubbornly refused, saying the Venus family looks down on us, claiming to treat me like an adopted son, but it's just charity. George treats me like a servant, insulting my dignity. They can't see my talent. An exasperated Patton cursed, "Right there, you have no talent at all." The house was in chaos. Mary's face was pale, and as Tom was being pulled, he hit her, causing her to fall onto the sharp corner of the coffee table. "My stomach hurts so much. My baby! Help me, please help me! Brother Tom, this is your child!" Patton, despite his disdain for Mary, couldn't let go of the child. She begged her parents to take Mary to the hospital. I pressed the record button. A life is at stake. This is natural, but I am psychologically fragile. I can't handle even the slightest provocation. I'm afraid they might accidentally cause something to happen because of my insult. I believe you can understand me. Is it okay if I record this? Looking at Patton's pale face, I smiled. One must always be cautious. Patton is a good person, but in the end, Tom is his son, and the baby in Mary's belly is his grandson. Never underestimate a person's attachment to kinship. We brought Mary to the hospital. The red light in the emergency room was on for a long time. We waited outside. A long time ago, the doctor came out. Patton and Tom looked at him hopefully. He sighed, shook his head gently, and said the classic line, "We did our best, but we couldn't save the child." Patton cried out on the spot. Tom got angry and insisted that I had killed his son. If I remember correctly, half an hour ago you were still saying this was my son. How is it that after half an hour he has become your son? I might as well post this online and let the Neens judge. I shook the camera in my hand. George, you did it on purpose. You just don't want me to have a good life, Tom shouted, his bizarre logic leading to a strange conclusion. I was jealous of him? Jealous of him? What a joke. My hand went cold as my camera was smashed to the ground by him, shattered in a way that can't be pieced back together. George, don't you just love to threaten others with your videos? I've smashed it. Now let's see how arrogant you can be. He was smug. I waved my hand dismissively. So you're admitting you broke my camera? So what? I smiled. It didn't matter. I turned and dialed 110. Malicious damage to someone else's property over a certain amount can be filed. That camera on the ground wasn't cheap. It's part of my collection, not to mention hundreds of thousands, at least tens of thousands. Such an expensive thing. Do you think it has the function to upload to the cloud? I asked him with a smile. When the police arrived, he hurriedly opened his phone to check, and the video had already been synced and uploaded. He, Tom, who had been funded by the Venus family, bit back at me and even got involved with my wife, Mary. The fact that they were both pregnant behind my back, giving me a green hat, was already known all over the internet. How shameless. In this day and age, even beggars talk about dignity. Don't post things like this in the future. Aren't the Neens' breasts just breasts? He was furious. George, I'm going to kill you. He tried to hit me, but ended up punching the police officer beside him. Great. Now he's added another charge, resisting arrest and assaulting a police officer. I hid behind the crowd, panic-stricken. Did you hear that? He said he was going to kill me. I uploaded another video in retaliation. I was psychologically fragile and couldn't bear this injustice. The video's views skyrocketed, and now he would have to face the consequences. A few days later, Patton went to the police station to bail him out, using his savings from all these years to pay me back. He also brought Mary home from the hospital. He came to apologize. It's all my son's fault. I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. I will keep him away from you in the future. George, please don't sue Tom. The old man with a head full of white hair almost knelt down to me. Tom was Patton's precious son, born late in his life. He did everything he could to get into the Venus family and secure a good job for his son. Unexpectedly, Tom not only took all her hard work for granted, but also trampled on it. He knew I was going to sue Tom. I rushed over in a panic, and I looked at her like this. Inside, I agreed. Upon reflection, I had already taken my revenge before my rebirth. Although it seems a bit cowardly to say we both perished together, I did get my revenge. In this life, Mary had a miscarriage, and Tom ended up in jail, his reputation in tatters. They did pay a price. I thought that if they could just settle down, I would be unable to let them off the hook. Unfortunately, I still underestimated the hatred the two of them had for me. They still firmly believed that I insulted and trampled on their dignity. I found out that Mary's first love was Tom. Tom was with her because he knew I liked Mary. When he saw me let go of her, he found it uninteresting and broke up with her unexpectedly. Mary got drunk and married me, and his feelings were rekindled once again. The two of them were intimately involved with each other. It must have been the same in the past life. They huddled together, mocking me as if I were a clown toyed with in their hands. Mary said she would take care of me, but in reality, she wouldn't even hire a caregiver. I had to be self-reliant, often falling out of my wheelchair. She called me useless. I thought she was tired of me, so to prove I was of some use, I handed all my cards over to her. Looking back now, it felt like I had been cursed, but fortunately, I have come to my senses. I directly replaced the car with faulty brakes. When a person is at their wits' end, what do? As I stood on the path watching the delighted smiles of the two people in the car barreling straight towards me, I thought to myself, they really don't learn. How could someone fall in the same place twice? I modified my car and hired my brother, a race car driver, as the driver. Don't even mention this little road. He claims that even if someone were to crash into him on the edge of a cliff, he could escape unscathed. He swerved and drove the car into the mud on the side. However, Tom's car, due to its high speed and lack of modifications, crashed head-on into a large tree. The overwhelming smell of gasoline filled the air. The police car arrived and the ambulance also came. The front of their vehicles was significantly dented. In the previous life, it was a brake failure, which could have just been an accident. Now, they could be said to have intentionally harmed someone. This could lead to a conviction. This time, no one was there to protect Mary, and her injuries were much more severe, but at least she wasn't left with any disabilities. Tom fared worse. When the car flipped, it pinned him underneath. In my previous life, I was only severely injured to the point of nearly needing an amputation, but I managed to save both legs. Tom, on the other hand, had necrosis in his lower body, and amputation was necessary. The surgery was done quickly. Tom applied for medical parole. Patton rushed over at the sound, and the seemingly weak old man showed an unprecedented strong side. She paid the fees, took her disabled son, and the injured Mary. Home in court, I also submitted the previous repair shop's proof, which was evidence that someone tampered with my car's brakes. Tom and Mary's faces were pale, like those of the dead. Behind them, Patton was watching the two with a sinister gaze. I heard that after that, her daily routine was just to keep an eye on Mary, making her take care of Tom's eating, drinking, and other needs. She wasn't allowed to run away. That old woman has gone mad. She wants Mary to be her son's legs for the rest of his life, and she wouldn't agree to it. She went back to her family crying. And guess what happened? They kicked her out with her bags. My brother sat across from me, full of sighs. You know, it's such a big issue. You should have said something earlier. If you don't divorce her, you'll be killed sooner or later by this stupid and venomous woman. I took a sip of coffee and smiled. It's all in the past. I was about to say goodbye to my brother when, leaving the SEF, a woman suddenly grabbed my hand. George, it's me. Don't you love me? Take me home, please. I was wrong. I really was wrong. I promise I'll stay at home from now on. Will you remarry me? I can have children, as many as you want, please. Before she could finish her sentence, an old man grabbed her hair. Patton covered her mouth and gave me an apologetic smile. George, sorry for the scene. She's just talking nonsense. I ignored Mary's pleading gaze. It's nothing. I just want to say that I married my wife to give her a good life, not to have children or to make her serve me. But some people think that I'm suffocating her, making her sick. I smiled at Mary. Miss Mary, I think you should be able to understand, she cried, trying to speak through her sobs, but was forcibly dragged away by Patton. Tom will be going to prison once he recovers a bit. Patton is still applying to see if Mary can go in with him to take care of her son. Mary feels so desperate that she can't even think of suicide. Patton is holding her down and has forced her to get a marriage certificate with Tom. We are quite taken aback. My brother, watching the drama unfold, asks me, "Do you think she regrets it?" Regret is useless. This is what she deserves. The sunlight shone down, warm and cozy. I instinctively touched my legs, feeling for the first time a sense of being grounded.